today's episode of The Crow's Nest, we are joined by a new guest. This man hails from Istanbul, Turkey, though I met him here in New York City. And on today's episode, he is going to tell us some of the experiences he had moving to a new country, moving to a new city, learning a new language, and just the variety of obstacles that he had to overcome. And this episode was interesting to me because even though I've known this man for many years, I learned more about him today. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Berçin, and I hope that you enjoy this new conversation. Thanks. Birch, the nice thing is that you have lived in the country and you lived in New York, but not for like a super, super long time, right? How many years have you lived in the U.S.?
It's been 11 years.
Okay, 11 years. And you are, how old are you?
I am 37.
Okay, so you came here in your 20s. I think you have an interesting perspective on, like, what have you learned here? Like, what, because you go back to Turkey, you are, no matter what, your pre-programming is Turkish. Like, how you think and how you see the world comes from how you were raised and grew up and the language that you were born with. So, like, I don't know, what have you taken away from the 11 years you've been here? Like, because I know you pay attention, you're real observant, you, like, study the language. Like, what are just some, like, funny things that you find that you had to deal with, like, trying to, like, maneuver and manage a new world, a new culture, a new language, a new city, etc.?
This was, like, the language part was very, very hard when I came here. My background, I went to some English schools in Turkey, like here and there, and I have some knowledge. And I was thinking that, like, it's gonna be okay. I will be able to, like, communicate with people. Let me give you an example, and you will understand better. So you go to school, and then they teach you some of English. And in my second day, I went to the store, right? Supermarket, and, like, what can go wrong in the supermarket? You go there are shelves, there are products. You can bring them to the cashier, and maybe we're gonna say, like, hey, how are you? Thank you, blah blah, and it's gonna be over. And I think my English was enough to do this. And then everything was perfect until I came to the cashier. And I paid I paid everything. And the cashier was about to give me the goods. And then she goes, "Wanna back?" And I'm like, I paused for a second. I really don't understand what she's saying. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. And she goes, like, "Wanna back?" I'm still trying to understand what she's, like, saying, like, I have no clue what she's saying. And then she pointed me the bag, like, because in the school they teach you, would you like a bag? Or do you want a bag? Inspectors in the store, like, want a bag? I'm like, okay. So it explains a little bit.
Yeah, like those little, like, idiosyncrasies of the language that you didn't know when you first got there. Yeah.
And to be honest, like, maybe the first 2-3 years went like this, like I was lost at some points, and I was communicating at some points. Helps, like. And the English language is, in my opinion, it's very, very, very hard language to learn. But once you learn, I think it's very easy to talk. Like, very, very easy to talk. I can say this right now. I think it's easier than my own language to talk right now, I guess.
Like, how you can express yourself?
Exactly.
Because with English, there's no, like, the only pronunciation comes with the region that you're from. So there's no, like, pronunciations you need to learn, which is, I think, is different from other languages where not only you got to learn the vocabulary, but you have to pronounce the word in a certain way.
Exactly.
So, okay, so you have the language was one challenge. What were What were some of the other challenges trying to like assimilate? Because not only did you move to the U.S., but you moved to a specific place. You moved to New York City, right? So you go from Istanbul, Turkey, to America's probably one of their largest cities. So like, what are some of the weird things that you had to deal with trying to make your way? Actually, can you tell me? Because I remember you telling me this once before. Like when you came here with pretty much nothing.
Oh yeah, I have $700 in my pocket, I guess, like when I landed, and then I paid my room for like 350, and I have like $400 in my pocket. It's more like an adventure. Like how I came here, it was an adventure too, actually, because I didn't plan to live here. I didn't plan to like stay. I wasn't thinking it's gonna be my future home, like future house, like future country, whatever. But it happened. But I just took a shot.
It's a big change. It's like to go on that adventure. Why? Like why did you decide to go on that adventure? What took you from your home country? Because that's where your family is, and like that's where your life was.
Dude. So before coming to America, I didn't even like take an airplane. It was the first airplane that I took, and I came to New York. Actually, when I was in the airplane, I was thinking this: I'm in the bus because they told me they're gonna take you with the bus, and I was thinking like this is a bus.
Oh my god.
I'm serious, and I flew here business class because I didn't know that these tickets have the seat numbers, and I was thinking I was still in the bus, and I just sat down in the business class, and they just kept me there because the plane was not so full. So, so,
Oh, you thought you can buy a ticket and just sit wherever you want, like the bus. Yeah.
no, because like I said, I never taken an airplane before, and I asked the people who took the airplane, and they say, like, you're gonna go some places, and they're gonna take you with the bus, and then they're gonna bring you to the airplane. I'm like, cool. And then we walked through the gate, and I was thinking I'm walking to the bus. So I went in there. The windows was closed. I kind of understand actually what kind of bus is this. It took me a while, and then I end up like flying business class, which was good.
All right, so you thought you were on the bus on the way to take you to the airplane, but you were on the airplane.
Correct.
Okay, so keep going. So yeah, so what made you go on this adventure?
I had a girlfriend at that time, and she moved to New York before me because she wanted to go to law school and stuff. And she kind of made my mind, like she was saying like, hey, come, we can see, you can practice your English and stuff. I'm like, okay. I knew it like it was gonna be more than like months, like because I wanted to stay. Like it's a long distance to come, and like I want to explore more. And the years passed by. Um, I had some, I had some like interesting times, like especially after 3 years, you start questioning yourself, like, what am I really doing here? Why am I choosing here? I'm kind of homesick. And then next day you're not a homesick, and next day you don't want to go there. Like it's going and coming. And after some point, I decided to stay here.
Where were you living when you first got here? You said you got a room for $350. Where was that?
Oh, it was horrible, man. I found this room. I found this room online. Like I didn't even see it, of course. I was in the country. So I came. It's kind of railroad style apartments, and you need to go to your room, like passing all these other rooms, and there's no privacy. There's a bunch of people in the apartment, some weird people. And the neighborhoods I started living, it was Jersey City. Jersey City 11 years ago, it was very, very different.
Could not be more different. Yeah.
Very different. Like you cannot recognize Jersey City 11 years ago. And first I was thinking like, dude, this is not the America that I'm seeing in the movies, like because in the movies in the Hollywood they show in the Beverly Hills, like like these yards, like this front porches and everything, and I'm in like some war style apartments, like the railroad style. I'm like, dude, what the fuck I did, man? Like,
There's no trees, there's no grass, there's like vagrants in the street and stuff. Yeah.
no, man. Even like I was thinking like, is this English a real language here? Like, Americans like speak English, or it's just my neighborhood because everybody was speaking Spanish? So I was thinking like maybe I'm in the wrong place. I don't know. Like this is not how you see America in movies, you know. But
Yeah, so Jersey City in 2008 was a lot like Williamsburg in 2007, 2008 before pre-gentrification. It was just like no one went there unless you grew up and were raised there. It's the same thing. Like unless you were from Jersey City, no one was going there. But now like you have people that work exclusively in Manhattan that now live in Jersey City and things like that. Completely different.
Jersey City is beautiful compared to like 10 years ago.
Like how was the PATH train back then?
I was taking the PATH train every day, and I was lost every day because back then there is no smartphone. Like I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have a Google Map. So the only way to find places, you ask people, right? Like you ask directions. And every time when I ask PATH train, wow, man, it's so much a hard time, man. Every time when you ask PATH train, it's like this. So I'm lost. I'm finding some person, and I'm like, excuse me, can you tell me where the PATH train is? And the person goes like, PATH train? Yeah, PATH train. PATH train. What is PATH train? I'm like, PATH train, you know, this train is going PATH. Oh, PATH train. And I'm like, dude, are you joking me? Are you really joking me? Like, I'm a foreign person. I am lost. And I'm saying train. Maybe I'm not pronouncing the path like correctly, but I'm saying PATH train. Dude, help me, man. Come on, like, you know, like, just, it was so hard, man. I was like, every time, like, why you give me this hard time? Like, because I cannot say path like correctly. Like, I'm trying to get a train, started with the P.
Yeah, they're gonna make you explain it that much and be like, I'm gonna spell it. I'm looking for the PATH train.
Yeah, I don't think I'm still not able to say this correctly, but people understand these days. Back then it was hard, very hard.
I would be very surprised to find you in a situation that you felt completely uncomfortable in. So that's why I'm trying to imagine you in New York a year, 2 years into your adventure, because I don't feel like you ever get like nervous or frightened, but I can just see you being confused.
I mean, there are sometimes I guess I get scared, nervous, frightened, whatever.
Really?
I mean, everybody has these moments.
I mean, I don't know. I don't get that impression from you. I kind of feel like you're always someone that's like there could be a biker gang about to go to war, and you're kind of like, guys, come on, calm down. It's okay. It's all right. Let's get a beer. Let's watch the soccer game.
You're talking about these situations. No. In dangerous situations, I don't get frightened. Like I'm just like, I seen worse. Like it's okay.
Have you seen some like rough situations from Turkey?
But when I was growing up, for example, here people talk, people curse each other's. They barely end up with a fight, right? Like fist fight. Like it happens, but not all the time. But in growing up in Turkey, you handle the situation with a fist fight usually. Like you're not scared to hit someone. At least when I was there, maybe change right now.
So growing up, you got into fights.
Oh, many times, man, many times.
And that's a more of like speak culturally, like would you say that like you said, like in Turkey or specifically in Istanbul, like people don't they're not aggressive with their words. It's like, all right, no, we're not going to talk. If we're that angry, we're going to fight.
Most likely. I mean, as I said, like my knowledge, my information, it's 10 years old because like 11 years old because I've been here, maybe changed a lot. But growing up in Turkey, like let me put it that way. You're not scared to get involved with a fight. And most of the time, if you get involved with a fight, you're not gonna get arrested. You're not gonna get punished by then. Like, so what blocks you to, not to fight?
Right, exactly. That's a good point because I think the reason why you see less fighting in USA is for those two deterrents. One is most fights end up you're going to have some complications with the authorities if you do that. Number one. And number two is once you get hit once, that changes everything. So once you have your first fight, it's easier to have more fights. You see what I'm saying? But most people are scared to get hit. And so that's the first deterrent. And then the other deterrent is you're probably going to have to deal with the local authorities if you get into a fight. Whereas Turkey, like, is if you're not going to get in trouble for having the fight, it's easier to get into the fight.
So, Berchin, all right, here, this is like an interesting subject. So, like, can you compare and contrast growing up in Turkey or the culture of, let's say, Istanbul like 10 years ago from your experience and like what you see and what you've experienced here? That fighting situation is a good example. Like, I would say most people, not most, but let's say a good percentage of people in the US, especially nowadays, have never been in a fight. They would probably do anything in their power to avoid a physical conflict, even if like they're in the right and maybe a physical conflict is the right move. So I feel like in a lot of other countries that's not the case. Like people, like you said, are pretty ready to have a physical altercation, especially if they're in the right. You know what I mean? So what are some other like things you've noticed that you're like, all right, like Americans, they're real weird. Like they do this, whereas like my experience growing up, we would do this.
For example, right now I'm in that mindset. Like if I can, I will probably avoid like any fights. Like why would I fight with someone? Like I wouldn't get involved with a physical, fist fight or whatever. But back then, yeah, that was my mindset. But in Turkey, like as I said again, I'm talking about the times I was growing up. So it might be different right now. Like I don't. But for example, like let me give you an example from the school. Right? I don't know if you guys get hit by teachers ever. So in Turkey, for example, it's very common. When I was growing up, like it's very common. So I got hit like a million times by my teachers. And if you go home, if I tell this to my father, for example, right? So let's say my teacher hit me for some reason, right? And probably my father would say like, "Wow, that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have the teachers, like they should teach you manners. Like, I would teach you anyway." You growing up that way, and then you looking at this kind of like mild violence in an okay way, like it's part of, especially like when I was growing up, that's part of how they teach you manners. I was very problematic child. Maybe that's why I get a lot of punishments, like physical punishments, family or like teachers. But we do this a lot in Turkey, like back then.
How would you get punished? Like how would your teacher hit you?
So there are different, like, okay, if you do something bad as a class, right? The whole class would get punished. For example, like one of our teachers, he always have a ruler, like a long ruler. And when he punishes the whole class, you have to put your fingers in that way. I don't know if you guys can see it. You stick in this thumb, index, and middle finger together and hold it up, so he can hit on it with the ruler. So you get the impact in three fingers. This is very small punishment.
Holy crap, man! The Turkish, man, you guys are experts in inflicting pain.
Well, I don't know who invented methods, but it works.
I don't know, man. It's the Asians. Okay, keep going. So that's a mild punishment.
That's mild punishment. That's a community punishment. So even you are not guilty or guilty, if you're in that class, you get this punishment.
Oh, so everyone will get punished for like you may. So let's say you did something, you get punished. The teacher's gonna punish everyone.
It depends on teacher's mood, man. Like most of the time.
That sucks. That sucks for like the good kids in the class that never do anything. They're getting hit in the fingers.
But there is an excuse for this. Like, why didn't you stop the other
So
guy?
they do like communal punishments, kind of like it. This is like how they used to deal with things in like the ancient armies. All right, one of you guys makes a mistake, I'm killing your whole team, your whole platoon.
It keeps everyone honest, and it keeps everyone checking each other. I guess that's the way it goes.
What are some other draconian punishments that were inflicted on you in Turkish school?
I got slapped in the face million times by teachers. But as I'm saying again, I was very problematic. I was always the one like who creates the problems.
What kind of punishment? I mean, what would you be doing?
You're like
Dude,
Bart Simpson over here.
We did some crazy things, man. We bumped the basketball hoop, this kind of things. They just little bumps in Turkey, like it's very popular. They're not bumps. I don't know how to call them.
Yeah, what you got to describe it because for the audience, I don't know what bumps are. What are you talking about?
This little explosive like this, right?
Oh, you're talking about a bomb.
Yeah, a little explosive. Yeah, okay.
So Bertrand, just for your further English education, your bumps and bombs, two different things. You're talking about a bomb.
Actually, I get this because when you bump on something, right? Like this, right? Like
That's right. That's what I thought you said. Yeah,
trying to say is bomb.
bomb.
Yeah, so a small explosive.
I get this. I get this.
So you and your ragtag bunch of friends procured small explosives, and then continue. What did you do with these small explosives?
So I'm not quite sure why they sell this to children. In the grocery stores in neighborhoods, they have this, like little explosives with the wick, like some wick, right? So you can light it up. So what we did, we combined, I don't know, maybe 20 of them, like just to make it like more impactful, and we decided to try this the hoop, the basketball hoop. And we kind of exploded this hoop. So so you get punishment for this for sure. And as I said, these are very problematic things for a kid. Like these kids should not be doing this, but kids also should not be able to get these explosives anyway. So
Where would you buy it? At like the grocery store, the corner store?
grocery stores, man, like these grocery stores, you go there and they sell it to you. I don't know, like what sick idea is this? You know, like,
So for blowing up something, what you got smacked in the face?
oh, more than smack. For that one, we were like 4 or 5 of us, and then we were taken to this how do you call the head of the school?
Principal.
Principal's office, and then the door closed, and then the teacher just like ran all of us were like
With the
no,
ruler?
bare hands.
So you're telling me you got beat, like it was a straight up. Your team of rascals got beat up by the principal.
Oh yeah, it's not a one slap, it's like combo slap, like bam 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 bam, like you know.
He just treated your face like a speed bag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But as I said, if I go home and tell this to my father,
He would be like, you deserved it.
yeah, man, like you know,
Because they deserved it. That's why.
deserved it. Like, you know, like, they don't talk, dude. They go to action.
I know, I like that. Well, in here in like the 50s and 60s in like Catholic school, it was the same thing. It wasn't like
Yeah.
that. They wouldn't just wail on you, but you're getting hit with like those chalk things and those like sticks and the rulers for sure.
So pretty much, Bertrand, it sounds like you were educated in 50s American schools.
Yeah, it was like that.
Probably.
Because I know my dad, for example, he went to school, like elementary school, in a Catholic school in the, let's say, the 60s and 70s, and they got punished, like, physically. But what you're describing as far as what your principal did, no, I think you would go to jail for that in America.
Yeah, you would. It wasn't that extreme, but if you misbehaved in class, you were getting whacked.
And also, there was no social media. There was no like recording devices. I mean, you cannot really prove anything, you know.
It was your word against the principal's. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think you can get something out of it, you know, like if you go for it.
So what were some of the other, what are some other stories you have from growing up in Istanbul?
This is broad question. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. What did you guys do for fun on like weekends or after school?
Well, until high school, my life was most of the time you go to school, you get out of school, and you play soccer.
So you're playing soccer almost every day.
Yeah, and I mean, if in the school, in the breaks, we play soccer too. And sometimes you don't have a ball, but you still play soccer. You play soccer with soda can. Many times I did. You round up some socks and made a ball out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you play with that. I mean, we're not that poor. We had a ball, but we use everything to play soccer. Like, and most of the time we play soccer, we played on the concrete. I don't know. We did bicycle kicks. Like we did everything. We like just land on the concrete, like after a header. I don't know, man. How didn't we like break a bone? But we were playing soccer all the time after school.
I remember you telling me a story once about how your dad, I believe it was your dad, had the boat, and you became a river tour guide in Istanbul.
My stepfather had a boat, and we were making some tours. Yeah, but I mean, we were making tours also in southern part of Turkey for the tourists.
What did you do on the boat?
I was little, man. I was like around 12, 13, I guess. I was just trying to, I don't know, like, I was a child, so I didn't have I didn't have a duty to do in the boat actually, but I was just having fun in the boat, I guess. Yeah, yeah, we had some crazy stories in this boat too. Yeah,
Wait, you had some what? Some stories?
yeah, man.
Well, is this the same? So is this the same stepdad that had a past as an arms dealer?
Yeah, they were smuggling guns. My stepfather, and yeah, it was their family business, I guess.
Who did they smuggle to?
They didn't give me all the details. They still kind of weird about it, even though like there's like 40 years past or whatever. They still kind of weird about it, and they don't really give names. But what I know is, so if you look at the map, like if you kind of try to picture where Turkey is, and um, you know above Turkey there's a sea. It's called Black Sea, and above that is Russia. So do this in the Black Sea region, so which covers Romania, Bulgaria, Russia, Georgia, this kind of
Okay.
countries. So I don't know where they taking it and where they bring it, but it was around there at that area.
Well, and also during that time, it wasn't even Russia. You're talking about the Soviet Union.
Correct, correct.
Exactly. So they were working with the Ruskies. They were working with the Reds.
I think they're more involved with, but Romania was part of it, right? Was it?
Romania was
Yeah,
the USSR. Yeah.
Were they supplying like rebel forces?
I don't know who they supply, man. I don't know. Like they don't give me the details.
That's a fascinating story, man. You got to dig into that.
You know there were AK-47s in there for sure.
Probably that's right. Probably that's right. Yeah.
Damn.
Uh,
That's awesome.
they have some hidden but I know they have some hidden places like in the boat. So even the cops comes and like search for it, they probably not gonna be able to find it. And the biggest part of it, so that's all about networking. Because if you have the people who you don't get search unless something going on. So they were paying people good, and that time, back in USSR times, people were poor, and it was easy to handle this custom guys and all these people.
You just grease them. Yeah.
You just bribe them, yeah.
Yep.
You just bribe them, I guess.
That's fascinating. I love that. That's like because like you said, like in the 70s, if you just kept a low profile, you were never getting caught. Like there's the surveillance and like there was no digital world at that time. If you just kept a low profile, you were getting the guns through. It was easy.
Even the movies, American movies in the 70s, like there's a lot of like killing and like it was kind of reality, right? Like it was maybe it's like more exaggerated, but it was kind of reality. So you can get away with a murder back in the day.
Absolutely, easily.
This day, you are very lucky if you can get away. Like you are very lucky.
Because of forensics evidence changed everything. You barely going to get away. If it's a murder, you're probably going to get caught.
Yeah, like the things that people were able to do and get away with, the scams. Like think about a lot of the mafia movies, like the Scorsese films. How would they steal trucks? They would just like go up to the guy who drives the truck, give him a wad of money, punch him in the face so he looks like he wasn't involved, and then they would just take the truck. There was no cleverness, no intelligence involved. It was just like, if you were willing to do it, you could get away with it.
Right, yeah, it was pretty simple to keep things under wraps. Now it's like so elaborate. You need it's almost impossible unless you have like high level like hacker guys to keep things under wraps. You need like guys that are really good with technology to do it.
Like, that's a good point. So nowadays, it seems that if you want to, technology is key. Your ability to know and master technology is your greatest limiting factor or your greatest power. So, like, Birch, for you, for example, right? So, like, you have a kid. Are you going to are you going to try to push your child into, like, learning, like, technology? Like, even if they don't want to do this as, like, a career, just as, like, a skill to have, like, knowing how to play soccer or any other skill. Like, do you think, like, have you thought about it at all?
You will be very limited. Like this. For example, in America, right? You gotta have the driver license, right? Like, other than New York, right? Like, you have to drive. You have to be able to drive. It's like some plus skill for you. But I think technology is same thing, man. My kid is like 15 months old, right? He kind of manages on iPhone how to turn on apps. It's too early for this kid like to figure this out, but he figures out. And also other thing, I don't know how catchy this technology for the kids. Like, even there is very weird example in my home. I have a router, right? This wireless router, internet, and it doesn't have a screen, right? It doesn't have any but there is only one button on it. Like, it's not as entertaining thing. But my child,
There was a technical difficulty with Bertrand's audio, but he goes on to say how his son is attracted to this wireless router, and he doesn't understand why, considering the router has no screen, there's not many buttons on it, it's not very colorful. But his son keeps going to it, and he's hugging it, and he's kissing it. And for Bertrand, it's like a mystery as to why his son would do this.
what is the thing? What is it that catches you? Like, it's just a wireless router. What
Right.
kind of frequency, like, it has, like, that catches you, that calls you
And
to
it attracts. Yeah.
calls you to hug me? Like, it's very hard to understand this. I don't know, like, what
Maybe.
could it, like, a child without any question, like, going to this box and just hugging this wireless router? Why?
I think maybe because it's a source of like power and energy, and it's feeding. There's like waves coming off of it at all times, like invisible rays are just shooting out of that thing everywhere. So maybe like he feels that in some way.
Scary to me, man.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. It's kind of cool actually. That means he's in tune with something. He's in tune with frequencies.
You and Andrew, anyone who's having kids now, it's interesting because the amount of things that they will grow up using are vastly superior to anything we grew up playing with. You know what I mean? So it's like technology and how it's used and how the brain engages with it. Like, I don't think we can even relate to it. Like, your child's going to be using an iPhone intuitively.
Yeah, but what do you guys think about that? You think because I talked to a librarian when we were still at Apple, so this was I imagine it's even worse now. So this was like 4 years ago at this point, and I was helping her, and she goes, "I have to teach children that come in how to read a book. They don't know how to turn the page and read because they're always swiping. They're like swiping at books and stuff." And I was like, and this was 4 years ago. I can't even imagine now that we've moved closer to electronics or like digital learning and stuff like that.
I was watching a video the other day.
Yeah.
Bunch of kindergarten kids, and the guy gives them a chemical film camera, and then they hold it, they like looking at it, and he explains it a bit. This is the device we used to take pictures with it, and then kids get it. Actually, kids get it. Kids understand like what's going on. Like, this light goes into the film, some chemical thing happening, whatever. But like, some of the interesting questions they ask, So one of the kid is taking the picture, and he goes like, "So okay, I took the picture. How am I gonna share it?" And the guy goes like, "There is no such a thing. It is a chemical camera. Like you don't share things." Okay. And the other kid goes like, "All right, I took the picture. So show me the picture." And the guy goes like, "This is not that kind of device. You need to bring it to some special place. So they're gonna print it out for you. So you need to wait like 1 week or so. So like you're gonna have it at the end." And the kid goes like, "So you guys taking one picture, and for this, you guys were taking one picture, and then you were bringing it to another place, and then you pay for it, and then they print it for you, and you wait like 1 week to see a picture." And the guy goes like, "Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing." And the kid goes like, "Wow, this is a lot of effort, like I appreciate the effort." But it took a while for the kids to understand like what's really going on with this like mechanical and chemical things, because everything is digital right now. So how they perceive the world is like not like us. They born with it. Like they're not gonna be able to understand what was life without this technology.
Right. Yeah, but I think by the time think about the time Adam Mars gets to your age, you that might be a time you don't even have to talk to a human being to live your life. Everything is automated. You don't have to interact with it unless you want to. So I think that's where we're going, and I think that's why our age group, we got the best of both worlds, because we have the 2020 like gadgets and stuff, but we also had rotary telephones and stuff like that. So we had both sides of the coin. So I think we're in like that sweet spot, because we're the last of it. Any generation under us kind of grew up with smartphones and things like this. Yeah, like some of the people we worked with, like they don't know the concept of having to drive without GPS, like things like that. They've had GPS the entire time they've been driving. They've always had GPS. And whereas us, like, we had to, like, I remember having to know how to get somewhere. You gotta just know how to get there.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's like I remember when I moved to New York, which I didn't have a smartphone either. So it's like you take for granted. GPS is one of those things I think that kind of gets overlooked by how much it affects your life in a positive way. Like the fact that you can plug in any location pretty much anywhere in the world and get directions there via like Google Maps is kind of an insane thing. Like it doesn't get talked about enough how you can do that. Like literally you can get off a plane in probably like Zambia and put in the address of like a hotel and be able to get like pretty accurate directions. That's insane if you think about it.
It is, because for instance, when I was in Canada, it's like that's the one less thing you have to worry about, because I didn't need to know I should go here, here, here. I was able to plan out, and I'm sure you did this too, Bertrand, when you went to Los Angeles. You plug in where the Airbnb is, and then you see how to get places, and you see everything around it. So I was able to plan it out specifically using like Apple and Google Maps, which you couldn't be able to do before. Like you had to get out physical maps, you had to do like extensive analog research. Now you can just get off the plane, like you said, get off the plane, punch in the address, and it'll even give you directions. It'll give you public transit directions to get there too. It'll just tell you how to get to your house.
When was the last time you guys got lost?
Genuinely lost, it has to be years. Years.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even. The only time I've ever gotten lost of late would be like if I didn't have my phone, or if I was in some place for some odd reason where like Google Maps didn't work. But I'll tell you, Google Maps works pretty much anywhere in the world. Like you could be in Nepal and use Google Maps and it'll get you where you got to go. So it's kind of crazy.
Like if you look at the feature that I use the most on my phone, it's Maps.
It was kind of nice, man. We used to go to places and ask the locals like, where should I go? What should I eat? You just go to Yelp right now, check the reviews.
And when you were meeting up with people, you had to be there, because you couldn't tell them on the way, like, oh, I'm running late, or oh, change your plans. Let's go to this place instead. You couldn't do it halfway. If you were meeting up with someone at a place, you had to go there because they were going to be there.
I remember going and meet with friends. It was like, yeah, like you couldn't cancel. Like if you said you were going to be in a place, you had to show up because they're going to be waiting for you forever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's also a dynamic that cell phones, a big one, right behind maps, I would say. You can beat your constant communication.
Do you guys think we were more committed to our meetings back in the day or now?
Definitely, yeah.
Because right now there can be a lot of excuses, right? Like, but back in the day, even though you have an excuse, you cannot say that.
I know. Like now you could even say it's become almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's become its own excuse. You can say, "Oh, my phone died," and now people are like, "Oh, I understand. He couldn't make it." So even the device itself has become the excuse.
No, but that's interesting, Bertrand, because you're kind of right. Because you can be, let's say it's like even if your phone died, someone would be like, "Well, were you at home? You check your email?" Like you kind of like. It's like that's the issue with jobs nowadays too. It's like because you're always reachable, it's very hard to like pull that excuse. Like I didn't see my email, I didn't get that message, et cetera, because like everything's also connected. So it's like, all right, your phone's not with you, but is your iPad with you? Is your laptop with you? Did you not have the internet? You couldn't check your email?
Back in the day, for example, right? Let's say we're gonna meet up in Astor Place with you, right? So we both on the way, like coming to the meeting, and let's say I had something and I had to change my plan, right? But back in the day, I cannot let you know that I'm like canceling this. So I have two options. I can still go there and tell you like, hey, I have to leave right now, or you're just gonna be stranded there.
Oh yeah, so people were much more punctual and less flaky for sure.
Punctual, I like that word. When I first heard this word, I think I was in Juno, and you have to be punctual, someone says. And I'm thinking like there's all this like punctuation marks, like the question marks and the like, this like other like comma, semicolon. And I'm thinking like, how can I be punctual?
Why do I need to be like an exclamation point or a question mark? Yeah.
Then I figured it out.
Birch, what are some of the other words? Because we've known each other for a bit. Like, what are some other words that you heard and were just like, what the heck does that mean?
I probably told you that, guys, like before. It's not the word, but I remember like I was smoking when I was like first year. I'm still smoking. So sometimes you're out of light and you ask people for the light, right? And I was thinking to ask light. You can ask like, hey, can you give me your light? Or you can say like, can you give me your fire? And I was always going to fire because fire in my head, it was light. So most of the time I'm going to people when I don't, like when I have a cigarette and I don't have a light, and I go like, hey, can I get your fire? And every time when I ask this, people looking at me so strange. Like, and I'm like, why they looking at me so strange? I just asked for the fire. Anyway, but like I'm doing some hand gestures, like pointing like this is lighter and pointing my cigarette, and they give it to me. But every time when I ask, like people look at me so weird, and I'm thinking like, am I weird or they weird? And one time I was in the pedicab and I stopped my pedicab, and there was a bunch of black guys like my age, and I went to them and I'm like, hey guys, can you give me a fire? Like one of you can you guys give me fire? And they start laughing ass off, man. They're like, oh, he just asked my fire. Well, dude, did you see this? This guy asking my fire. Blah, blah. And I got very offended. I got furious. I'm like, I was kind of like, what are you guys talking about, man? Why are you making me laugh with it? Like, I just asked for, like light. And those guys was very nice. They took a moment and they explained it to me. Dude, in America, you don't ask light as fire. Like you cannot go to people and like, hey, can you give me your fire? Like it's very weird to say this. And I'm like, thanks a lot, man. You guys are the real people, because I was asking all other people and nobody took the time and explained it to me. But you guys made a big fun out of me, but you explained it to me, so I'm appreciative for
it. Birch, one of these days I'd like to do an episode where you just tell us stories from your pedicab days.
The pedicab episode, yeah, that needs to come out.
Because I know you have a lot of stories from a job that like very few, if any, people have ever talked to someone who's done this for a while, and I know you have crazy stories from your pedicab days.
The job
Yeah.
itself is crazy, man. If you look at it, you're just the person, physical body, carrying other people in your back. Like, they're sitting over there, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, and you just paddle.
But it's also the interaction, because you're like you like that job is you're talking to people, like you were giving them tours and stuff.
Yeah, I was saying that I was saying like I'm in the entertainment business, not in the transportation business. Because pedicab is not transportation. People take this to get entertained.
Yeah, and like all the things that you can get into if you just pick up the right person. That's my favorite part about the pedicab. Like it just opens up so many possibilities.
Oh, dude. So there are this type of people who are crazy rich, right? Like crazy rich, like they have no money. And these people sometimes, when they see the pedicab, it's very attractive to them. I don't know, like they wanted to take this. And I had some like crazy rich passengers a couple of times. Like once I had a passenger, and he was like just like this. All right, take this ride, $100 bill. Thank you so much. And then he goes like, we maybe like got a ride for like 2 hours, and every time he's like, run this red light, and I'm running the red light. Give him another $100. It was pretty pleasant ride to me. I don't know. We both had very, very much fun this ride.
So he just kept dropping C notes on you periodically, dropping $100 bills. How much was the total ride? How much you get at the end of it? 1,000?
No, more than 1,000. 13 or 12 or 1,300, something like that.
Yeah, and that's straight cash, homie. That's right in your pocket. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, we're gonna do this episode. We're gonna talk for like an hour one day just about pedicab, because I know you have stories, and I know you like that job.
I had the best one, yeah, in my life. Like in 3 years, I had it.
So there's also like the pedicab community too there, like you're friends with the other drivers.
It's community, like you go to dinners together, like when you finish, when you take a break, and yeah, there's a community. There are some interesting people in this community.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Are they ultra competitive? Like, do they try to like steal rides from you and stuff? I bet that happens too.
It happens, but like every job has some not written rules, right?
Ooh, the unwritten rules of the pedicab. That's how we got to start off that next episode.
What is one of the worst things you've seen between pedicab riders? Yeah, no, between the drivers. I'm sorry, between like two drivers. Have you ever seen someone get got for breaking one of these rules? Like they show up one day and their rickshaw has just been all the tires flattened. There's a pile of shit in the rider's seat.
I'll be honest. I slashed someone's tire. I would do this today again because I had that person.
So wait, why did you slash this dude's tires?
Dude, this guy was horrible, man. So this pedicab driver, he's American, and he's so sick, man. Like whenever I'm riding with other riders, he was coming and saying some nasty racist things, don't take a pedicab with him, is blah 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 blah. And it was so annoying, like 1, 2. And I talked to that guy actually before slash his tire. I said like, dude, like I have no problem with you. I don't even know you. Like I'm just what I'm doing. Why you always coming and like, disturbing my business? Like it's not cool. And he had a wrong attitude, man. He had a wrong attitude. And what I did, he was talking with some tourists in Central Park, and he was gonna give them some park tour. Maybe it wasn't not the right thing to do, but I wanted to do it, so I just like slashed all of his tires.
And he was out. He was done for the day.
Now, did he know it was you who did it?
No, actually, like as a person, I don't do this kind of things. It's not nice, like just destroying someone's, thing. But I enjoy that, man. I so much enjoy that.
See, I always like you, Bertrand, because you're kind of like a cowboy. You're a little bit, you got that cowboy quality. If shit got real and I had to pick people to be around in that situation, I'm like, Bertrand's gonna be at the top of that list because I feel like he can handle himself in a variety of scenarios.
It's good. It's good to have a person like that. You need one of those in the crew.
So for those of you who do not know Bertrand, and that might be some of you, right? Bertrand, who you've now learned is from Istanbul, Turkey. He's also married to a beautiful, nice woman who's from Russia. So his child, his son, his first son, will kind of grow up with these three cultures, right? He's going to grow up with his father's Turkish culture. He's going to grow up with his mother's Russian culture. But he's also going to live, for the most part, unless you move, in America. So are there certain qualities that you want to instill in him that are specifically Turkish or Russian? Like, are there things that you're going to be like, hey, I want him to make sure he takes this part of my heritage with him, or this part of his mother's heritage?
I don't think I would like try to like force anything to my child. Like, you know, how do I say this better? He will get the Turkish heritage anyway. He will get the Russian heritage anyway because this is who we are, and it's gonna. I don't know how it's gonna be. It's gonna be. I don't know, man. It's hard to answer this question. Like, it's very hard to answer this question.
How about this? Are there things that you don't want him to take away from your culture, or things you don't want him to take away from your wife's culture? Because, I mean, there's things, I bet you have a long list of qualities that if you sat down, you're like, yeah, I hope he takes away maybe how the Turkish people are more, I don't know, maybe loving or affectionate, etc. But are there qualities that you don't want him to take away?
I understand. So, for example, like, let me give you an example. I don't know if you guys see any, like, Turkish people, like, greet each other. We always kiss in the cheek. Like, we don't just handshake. Also kiss.
Okay.
So for example, my child, I would like it to be, you know, growing up with this, and that gives you a little example of it. You understand what I'm trying to say? And also, like, in our culture, and it's also in my wife's culture too. Sometimes I don't like how the youth talk to elderly. You know, like how they behave to the elderly, because for us, for example, like in my language, for example, like I cannot call elderly person by the name. Like if Rob is 50 years old or 50, I cannot call him Rob. Like I gotta show my respect, appreciation for the elderly. This part of my culture. So this kind of things, man.
So, like, you're in an interesting situation because it's actually like a real unique, like how you like your relationship with you and your wife is like you both come from two distinct places that are pretty different. Like, I mean, Russian culture and Turkish culture, I mean, maybe there's definitely some similarities because they're not that far from each other. But English was both of your second languages. It's like kind of an interesting thing because, you know, you're going to speak to your child in the language that you feel the most connected to. And that's not a language that either of you share, really, because English is not... For you speak more English than I think your wife does. So is that... Do you think that's going to be a challenge as your child grows up? That, like, what is going to be the common language that you all can kind of like share together?
It's also in my relationship. It wasn't so easy because, for example, like if I was married with an American person, right, we can still talk in English, but the other person, it's talking her mother's language, so she can express herself like the best way possible. In our situation, we are trying to communicate in a foreign language, which is foreign for both of us. It was very hard, and I think it's gonna be hard for Mars too a little bit. But when child's like sponge, like when I have no concern if he's gonna be okay with the English or not, because he's gonna be okay. I think for the most part, when this time comes, he's gonna teach us more than we teach him.
Oh, 100%. I mean, so for example, my father, he's first generation American, so he'd be like your son. His mom learned English really by helping her son, my dad, go to school and take his classes and do his homework because she kind of had to learn the language in order to be able to like fully help him get along in school. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, your son, your child, and your children will be fine. It'll be more you guys having to catch up with him than vice versa. I would imagine he'll know three languages by like 4 years old. He'll be in kindergarten. He'll speak three different languages.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. You lived in India, right? For how long?
I was in India for two months and change, just in India.
How would you handle the language situation? How did you handle the language? Like you were able to find all these people who speak English, or
So, I mean, this is the one thing I think this is why a lot of native English speakers don't speak other languages. And it's because English is kind of a world, it is the world language. So in India, if you're in a metropolitan area, you 90% of people are going to speak English probably, especially if the further north you go. When I was in like living on like in the middle of nowhere, like farmland area, like in a village, no one spoke English, very little. The kids speak English, so in many places it's the kids are your translators because they want to speak English. They kind of like I had more relationships with children because they're learning English in school, and then they could convey what I needed to convey to, let's say, an adult or a parent. Like I got out of a lot of issues via help from kids. Like I didn't have a cell phone, like a SIM card, and no one was helping me get one, and it was like a kid. I mean, a young man, like a 14, 15-year-old kid who like helped me go through that process. So that's there. But when you're in a city, like if you go, a lot of the cities, like English, the people there speak English. The one thing I'd say that I think differs from like Europe and like Asia is that in Asia they want to speak English and they like it, and they actually get more, they get a lot of value, like they enjoy, they're like, I want to talk to you in English, like I don't want to talk in my own language. Whereas when I've dealt with Europeans, English will be the go-between language, but there's like a little bit more like call it pride in their own language, where it's like they prefer, like French people, all of them speak, good chunk of them speak English, but if you're in France, they don't want to speak English to you. They want you to speak French.
The French have that air of pomposity about them, though. I think Germans, and like especially if you go to Scandinavia, and the Scandinavian people are so nice, they wouldn't mind English. But you're right, like Western Europe, like Spain and France, yeah, Portugal, they would prefer to speak those languages.
let me
I
ask you a
remember.
question. You 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 used lion's mane mushroom too, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the times when you were using this mushroom, did it affect your dreams?
Not that I recall, but I honestly didn't take it, I think, long enough for it to build up into my system. Why? Are you finding that it's affecting your dreams?
Oh, I'm Quentin Tarantino every time when I take this lion's mane, man.
Did you say you Quentin Tarantino? he said he just transports into Pulp Fiction every time he eats.
And you definitely think it's the lion's mane?
Oh yeah, like 100%, 100%.
How much are you taking?
Oh, I'm not so like committed these days. Like I'm not taking every day, but the time that I was taking one supplement pill in the morning, one supplement pill at night. But talking about lion's mane, because I was so shocked about this, I gave it to my coworker once. Darius, I gave it to him, and I wanted like I told him like if you like let me know if you're gonna have like different dreams, and he said like yeah, my dream was so vivid, like extra vivid that time when he take the pill.
Yeah, dude. So I have been pondering maybe going back and microdosing psilocybin, but dude, for me when I've microdosed, it's too emotional for me. You like that feeling, but it's to me it's too much.
It's very, it can be very, very emotional. Yeah,
Describe what you're thinking about or feeling.
yeah, you could easily be, because once you start thinking about something emotional, you
Mhm.
go into deep emotional state,
Mhm.
which I like, but he didn't like.
Yeah, you feel like a little bit like, at least my experience was, this was like when I was at home, when I was like living at home for a period of time. I was doing it in the morning, and then I'd go for a walk. And where my parents live, the next they live across from a cemetery, so I'd go and I'd walk in the cemetery. Maybe like like an hour after taking it, Burchin. And the way I would describe it, and I don't know if you describe it similarly, is that you feel like you're not on firm footing. Like there's a disturbance a little bit deep, like inside of you. That's at least how I felt. And then I'd start to walk, and I would start to think about, you start to look at your life, and like you just start to kind of like think about things, and I would get very much emotionally, not disturbed, but it would just be like emotionally raw a little bit. And it's not like you're taking, like, we're talking about very, very small dosage. It's not a psychedelic experience, but you just feel very, maybe would vulnerable be the right word, Burchin?
Vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable. Yeah, I think you can say
Like,
this. But why did you take a walk in the cemetery, dude? After taking the microdose, I got stuck over there. Like, that's the place you picked.
I mean, dude, I have no problems with cemeteries, man. I go to a cemetery, I walk around, it's like a park. People are always like so sketched out by that. It's funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a cemetery either. Yeah, but you're saying it makes you introspective. You start examining what's happened, and if like a very profound event, and you fixate on it, you'll get emotional about it.
And I think it depends on your personality as to if you like it or you don't like it. And also, it depends on how sensitive you are to the drug. So for me, I was taking very little. It still might have been too much because you're not really supposed to have it's microdosing. You shouldn't really be aware of an effect because it's supposed to be such a small amount. But even for me, like 0.01 or something like that, it would disrupt me too much.
And also sometimes, maybe in my experience, I don't know. Most of the time, I was okay with microdosing, but sometimes, like when you are on it, I'm not getting the effect. I'm not getting any visuals, or I'm not like in transit state. No effects at all. But I know I'm on it in a microdose. But let's say, I'm at work that day, right? For some reason, if I don't want to be in that office that day, if I'm and also I'm on microdose, it's very hard to manage it. Like, I just don't like that space. I want to leave that space. Like, I want to leave that space. I sometimes kind of get this kind of feelings, and it seems to me, if I don't leave that place, it's very wrong for me, because like, why am I forcing something which I don't want to be in it right now?
Mhm.
Like, in a normal state, I would push myself, right? Like, hey, dude, this is your job, man. What you talking about? What you thinking? But in
Mhm.
that state, I like as a being, like psychological being, don't want to be in that space. When I'm in that space, I want to leave.
When you take something like that, and I would imagine it's very similar with like most psychedelics, I can understand why like a government would not want people taking it, because you're very right, because very quickly you're like, the things that you do, that you force yourself to do because it's like, you say to yourself, hey, like this is what you do, you're an adult, like you have to do this, you have to do that. When you take something like that, like a psychedelic, it puts life in perspective, and it can be like a dangerous thing, because there are, at least it appears that there's certain things you have to do to like make it in the world. But like you take mushrooms and like, even at a small amount, your brain you start to get the message of like, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do this.
Because you are more focused on meanings. Like and at that time, if you do something and it has no meaning to you, it's kind of like you already know that it's a pointless. Like it's a job. Maybe you don't enjoy it. But at that state, as a being, you have the clarity. You said like you don't feel it, man. Come on, like it's like your feelings are like more. I don't know.
I know what you mean, though. Exactly.
And if the things like, for example, like every time when I do microdosing, you definitely feel more connected. Like there are some times I'm not, as I said, I'm not tripping, but I just look at the sky and enjoy it, like enjoy it more, like and you kind of feel it, you're part of it, like and I like that feelings.
Yeah, it's almost like a painful connection in my mind because it's like you can, I think, begin to empathize with nearly everything. And that was what I found. It's like, it almost is like in life you have to like, you kind of need a degree of callousness because if you're perpetually caring about everything, it's kind of hard to survive. And I kind of feel like when you eat like a microdose, that shield that you've kind of put up to protect yourself from everything else that's going on in the world kind of breaks. And it's like now it's like you just pure empathy. Like, all right, there's that old lady, and like, all right, I'm like, you start to think about that person. Like, oh, like I feel bad. Like I feel for this person. Like maybe they have no one in their life. Maybe they're alone, et cetera, et cetera. And you start to feel as if like I'm that person. Like you can connect at a degree that's more difficult, I think, normally.
So you're like absorbing other people's feelings and stuff like that, and like personalizing it for yourself.
You call it empathy. Like, I mean, depends on how the degree, but yeah, I mean, think about it. You live in New York, there's thousands, millions of people, and it's not possible to care about all of them because you just would not be able to function in the world. Now, I have found when I did microdosing, it's just like you start to care about a lot more people than you normally would allow yourself to care about, which is probably the right way to exist in the world, but I mean, it's not easy to. I don't think most people are able to do it and remain healthy.
Right. I remember when I did. So I never microed, but I did the one full dose that you gave me, Bershid. And the biggest takeaway that I took from that is I could walk by someone in the street and I could feel their personality. It's weird. I could be like, this person I would get along with. I don't like this person. I feel the darkness here. This person is probably cool to be around. Like I could actually, as I'm studying them walking toward me, I could feel like how, like what level of personality they were. It was kind of cool that way. That was my bit. I also got a little bit of visuals, but it was more of that. Like I was absorbing people's personalities, and I could instantly, like without even saying a single word to them, just by walking by them and looking at them, I could tell what personality that they have. It was very dope.
So here to round this conversation off, so you said something. You said, what did you say? Oh, you were saying how like when you were doing the microdosing, we were at Juneau at the time, so all three of us were working at the same place. That it was like you felt that, like you. Like it, what triggered how it resulted in you was kind of like, hey, I don't want to be here. Like this is not the place I'm meant to be. Like this is not my destiny. Like this is not right for me. I want to get out. Do you have a vision for yourself now? Like you're married, you have you have a child. Like do you think you figured out kind of like where you want to be, like your destiny, like what you want to be doing? Like what would be the right place for you?
My like how I feel right now. For example, I'm unemployed at the moment, right? And I didn't even look at jobs, and I just don't want to sell my time anymore. Like I want to use my time for the things that's gonna matter in the future. Because if I do a similar job what I did in Juneau, for example, right? I don't get this enjoyment anymore because like you're just selling your time to someone to do some job, and maybe you enjoy, but it's not gonna matter for you in 5 years, in 10 years. Like, it's not gonna affect you. What you're doing right now, it's not gonna affect your future. So what I want to do from now on, anything I do, I build on it. Like, it affects my business. It matters. Like, I wanted to do it.
You have a limited lifespan, and you don't want that time to be wasted. You want to see something at the end of it. Like, all right, I spent time, but this is what I got out of it. So you want your moves to be valuable and to, as you said, to build on each other, build on itself.
I know, yeah, and we're getting to the point, like, we're not in our 20s anymore. Like, at this time you need to start doing what you like doing, because time is valuable.
So, Birch, why don't you close us in this conversation with some words of wisdom?
Drive a pedicab in New York. You will enjoy it.